button. Recording.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala rasulihi al-kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu wa ba'd. How's the sound? Barakallahu feekum. How's the quality of the sound? Inshallah, we hope it's good, inshallah. Tabarak wa ta'ala. How's the sound? I guess that means the sound is okay. No one complained or said anything about it. Inshallah. Bi'awnillah. By the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala
Recording.
is our class. We took a break from alhamdulillah. We're back. And the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. This is the conclusion of the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, the conclusion of the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. The last part we left off concerning this hadith, the hadith of Jibreel, where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was asked by Jibreel to inform him of the hour. He was asked about Jibreel to inform him of the hour. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we answered Jibreel by saying that the one who's being questioned, meaning himself, knows no more about the subject matter, which is the day of judgment, than the questioner himself, which Jibreel is the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to the Prophet Muhammad to teach him in the first place. So the only way that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam could respond with a suitable answer about the day of judgment, the hereafter, and the affairs that are going to happen on that day is by Jibreel himself. By Jibreel himself. One messenger from the creation of Allah, the angels, Jibreel being, to another messenger from amongst the creation, the human beings, Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So thereupon Jibreel, he said, فَأَخْبَرَنِي عَنْ إِمَارَاتِهَا. The ulama, they said, إِمَارَاتِهَا أي أشرطها أو إماراتها, they said it means علامتها. Now, علامتها. Alama here means like a a signpost, or as we say when you travel, look for a landmark. So imaratiha means ashratiha, its signs, or if you will, alamatiha. So imaratiha, its signs. Another way of saying it, ashratiha, its signs. And another, yani barakallahu fikum, alamatiha, now, its signs. All of them mean the same. Something that's leading up to the main event. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, and tulida amata rabbaha, naam, and tulida amata rabbaha. And tilida means whenever something takes place. In here means yani shartiyya, adatu shartiyya. Now, something that shows you that those things that are conditional are about to take place. Now, barakallahu fikum. So in talida, naam, and tulida means when someone is going to give birth, they're going to bring forth. And what is this? Yani, a condition of being some signs, some portents that the hour was going to come. That which Jibril asked the Prophet in the first place, and he said, "The one who's being asked has no more knowledge about that thing than the questioner." So those things that will happen, they will happen on a conditional basis, and that is that they lead up to the day of judgment. So one of them, intulida amata rabbaha, intulida, when someone delivers, gives birth. Amata has a lot of meanings. One of the meanings is somebody that is musakhiran lighayri. Musakhiran lighayri. Musakhiran, this word, it means someone is subservient. Someone is giving servitude, or that something has been put for someone else's usage. So the term amata could be used to say someone is a servant. Amata can mean someone is a servant. It could also mean someone is a slave owned by somebody else, a part of someone's chattel or someone's property. It could also mean someone that's subservient to the one that created them in the first place. So if you use it in terms of a human being, then it could mean that person, amata, she is subservient to her parents. She is subservient to her parents, amata. It could also mean amata, she is subservient to the master, or the one that has conquered her. It could also mean she is subservient to her creator. So Salami said, Antulida amata rabbaha, amata, the female subservient one. Rabbaha, the scholars, they said, this has different meanings. Normally you hear that Rabbaha, someone that's over somebody else, they take care of them, they are in charge of their affairs, they manage them like this. Normally when you hear the explanation of this part of the hadith, they use that term, like a slave master or someone who's up over someone else in authority. But the scholars that give other definitions to the hadith what could be meant by someone being the Rabba of a Amata. One of the meanings they give, they say, Rabba here means, Barakallahu fikum, the one that conquers something. The one that conquers something. And they said that the Prophet ﷺ prophesied futuhat. Prophet ﷺ, Barakallahu fikum, told the companions about something called futuhat. Futuhat is the plural of fath. Futuhat is the plural of fath. As fath means opening. A opening. Or that which is a victory. As they say, Fath al-Makkati. Naam, Fath Hamada al-Makkah. The victory of Mecca, or when Mecca became open freely to the Muslims without opposition. Meaning they conquered Mecca. They went in, and the Meccans, the pagans, and their allies allowed the Muslims to come in without a fight by the permission of Allah, because of the fear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had instilled in those disbelievers, because of the iman of the believers, because of the aid of Allah to the believers, because of all that they tried to do to turn the Muslims back from their deen. It only increased them. So, futuhat, and the way of understanding this, it means conquest. That you fight here, you fight there, and you gain territory and land. So after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, the futuhat became many, the conquest became many. So what's the correlation between conquest and the statement in Tilada Amata Rabbaha, when the Amata, the Amata here, the servant lady, will give birth to the one who's over her. And normally that doesn't make sense. Because if a person is a slave and they have a child in the days of slavery, then that child too was a slave. The child was automatically owned by the master, although the mother carried him and delivered him because she belonged to the master. She was under someone else's charge. Then the children likewise came under that charge. With this hadith, Prophet said, until the rabbaha, when a subservient lady will give birth to her master. So someone said, this doesn't make sense. Follow the story as we go along. The ulama, they said, the fact that the Prophet talked about futuhat, conquest, they, Barakallahu fikum, went into Sham, meaning Palestine, Syria, Jordan. They took all of that. They went into Mosul, Egypt. They took all of the area of Egypt, Scandaria, Cairo, Alexandria, Cairo. They went into Barakallahu fikum, all of these places, fighting, because these were the adversaries. These were the people that wanted to get at the Prophet and the believers during the time of the Prophet. But Allah protected them. So now the Prophet died, and it's time to take the fight to them all of these years. So what happened was, when the Prophet died, the people that, number one, they were in lands that were not Muslim countries. They were in lands that were not Muslim countries. While they were Muslim, when the Prophet died, they became weak. They became affected by the adversaries, the disbelievers that they were amongst. So they apostated from the religion. A'adam billah. A'adam billah min dhalik. Seek refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal, forbid them in the deen, from leaving the religion, being driven out of the deen. But this is a reality. Those people, when the Prophet died, they started leaving the religion. And we're not talking about the companions. As the Shia, the Rafidi, they make this claim that the companions of Kuffar, because when the Prophet died, they all left, they went back on their heels. No. We're talking about others and other countries. this happened to them. So imagine the Muslims go to fight. They march to a place that's a non-Muslim place, and they go to fight. Those people who wanted to fight and kill them and tried and made numerous attempts. So that person that's in that land, that's a Muslim who apostates, who didn't leave and go to Medina, who did not leave and go to Medina. For example, Mecca, before it became the place of the Muslims, it was considered what? Darul Kufr. Nah. It was considered the place where the people who ran it, the majority of those that were there, what they stood for was disbelief. So for example, when the Muslims made hijrah, when they migrated to either Ethiopia, Habashia, or Medina, those people that were Muslim that stayed behind, guess what? If they left Islam and then the Muslims, and then we're given an example, went to Mecca with a fight, but we know that they did not go to Mecca with a fight. Allah Azza wa Jal gave them the victory without anything from themselves. Allah Azza wa Jal gave them and made a way for them that Mecca would be open to the believers. But we're taking this as an example. So let's imagine in other places, the people accepted Islam. Some people left and their loved ones stayed behind. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he dies, and people in those countries, they apostate. What's going to be the scenario if you have a son that's coming from the lands of the Muslim? You have a son that's coming from the lands of the Muslim, and they're coming to do futuhat. They're coming to do futuhat, yani conquest, to fight, to secure this area from those people who want to stump out the light of Islam and to kill the Muslims. So now you being Amata, that lady, who your son comes and they win, then if he does not know that you're in that land, that you're his mother, because he left with his father or his uncle as a little boy, you stayed behind, and now they come and they win the conquest, then you become your own sons. You become your own sons amata, a servant. Because when you fight, when you conquest, everything belongs to you. This is the concept of right hand possessed. This meaning you possess those things by the means of fighting and the cause of Allah, and yameen means it's halal for you. Although this, barakallahu fikum, needs to be clarified, you cannot just, because you have these ladies now against their will, rape them and say no, like slavery we know in the West, they used to rape the ladies. No, but the lady, as we're talking real talk, you treat them nice, your workers, we'll have examples in the society where people have love affairs. She's in love with him, he's in love with her. Well, the difference here is that if that was to happen, it's not considered zina. It's not considered haram. Why? Because that's a person that, for lack of a better word, is under your charge, and you have earned them in the victory by way of fighting. So basically, it's kind of like we say chattel. They're under you. They belong to you without having to do the contract of marriage. So as long as they consent, you have relations, and you can have children from that person. Although it's not considered zina, she's not considered your wife either. It's called right hand possessed. And this is due to the right hand, meaning what was in halal, that which Allah has made lawful for you through futuhat, through ghazwat, through conquest and fighting in the cause of Allah. So this is one of the explanations scholars they give, where they say, until the where a lady gave birth to something, but that something became her master. Why? Because she's from the people that apostated from Islam and a foreign land, and when the Muslims came, to fight and got victory, she became under the ownership of her own son. Allahu musta'an. And some of them mentioned that, because they apostated. And this does not mean, barakallahu fikum, that in this case the son is allowed to have relations with his mother, because this is always prohibited. As Allah said in Surah An-Nisa, حُرِمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ نعم وَبَنَاتُكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُمْ إِلَى آخِرِ آيَةٍ, where Allah said, prohibited for you to have relations with, under the contract of marriage and otherwise. First he said your mothers. Then he said your daughters and your sisters. And then he went on and on and on. All of those females down the chain. So just because that phrase, until the Amatarabaha, when the lady gave birth to a child and now later on in history that child became her owner, her master, doesn't mean he can have a relationship with her. Don't understand this in that way. But he still owns her by default. He is over her, in charge of her, because of the conquest. Now, she's not just his mother anymore. Actually, he has power, sulta, alayha min bab futuhat. From the perspective of conquering and conquest, he now is in charge of her, rather than she being in charge of him as the mother. That's the point that we're making. The roles have been switched because of apostation and that which is victory over the disbelieving people. That's one example of the meaning of this hadith. One of the other ones, they said, because of jahl, لأجل جهل بالنسب وبأحكام الإسلام, because of the ignorance of who's from your family. People are cut off by, barakallahu fikum, leaving the religion. People cut off by migrating and others staying behind. This is one of the ways to break the ties. So now, let's say this person doesn't even know that he has family in this area, and he goes and they conquest. And then he doesn't know that, aside from that, if they're your family, you cannot take them as a right hand possessed. Just as the issue of Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Tabarak wa ta'ala said, Ummahatul mu'mineen, that they, the mothers of the believers, or from the wives of the Prophet, they are to be considered to us in the status and in the position as a person would perceive and hold their mother. So therefore, no one could ever marry the wives of the Prophet, as Allah said that they are lastun mithli ahadin min an-nisa'i. You're not like any other women in this life. You're not like any other women in this life. No one else has the status of someone's mother to the point that you can't even marry them. No. And we're saying from the heavens, this came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this, when the fitna happened between the believers and Aisha and those people with her were defeated, one of the things about the Khawarij, while they made a lot of fitna, one of the things that was part of this fitna, they deemed Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the believers, to be disbelievers, because they said, you didn't take Aisha as a amata. You didn't take her as one that you own. But how could they, when she's in the position, in the category, in the status of our mothers? So although they won, this is an example showing that this does not mean because you conquer, you can have that person literally and relations is okay for you and so forth. If it's your mother, no. But the point is the roles are switched. Just as with Aisha, they could not do anything but leave her in honor. Technically, she became a person that was conquered, and someone should have been able to be an authority over her. But because of her status, it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which He informed us that they are our mothers. They are like our mothers. They are in the place of our mothers. Then all of those hurumats, sanctities and sacred things about them stays in place forever. So no one can marry the wives of the Prophet. No one can conquer them and take them as right hand possessed. And they're not like any other women in this dunya. So it's an example of even if that person conquested and he had family there that he didn't know about, or he had family there that he knew about, still that lady could never technically be under his rule to the point that he would be able to have relations with her and it's permissible, and those things that are open from that side. But technically he's still up over her because of the conquest. Now, so this is another explanation the scholars that give for the statement, until the da'amata rabbaha, when the lady would give birth to someone that will be up over her. That is, the person is ignorant of the rules about this. He does not know that he cannot be up over his own mother, even in the conquest. That's his mother. But because of ignorance, she became his amata. He's in charge of her like this. So you have the one
Notification.
that has to do with
One new.
You have the one that has to do with the conquest itself, and thus, because the people left the religion, they apostated, then in this type of victory, everything that is part of the victory becomes in your hands. Thus, that person that's the child of that parent becomes up over them because they left Islam, they apostated, and when the Muslims went in and fought and gained victory, then all of that belongs to them. The other factor and the other point they make, he said in the explanation, that a person is ignorant to the rulings in Islam, who's halal for him, who's haram, so he transgresses that bound. He makes her, Allah musta'an, under him like a normal lady, because he doesn't know that this is prohibited. He thinks if a victory comes, that's it. You belong to me and you're under me and I'm over you and everything exists. Then you have, barakallahu fikum, that which is most commonly mentioned, that the child would have kufran, bikafru, kufran kufrul mada walidayhi, or ummahati, or mada al-kufr, or kufran, al-kufra ummihi, that the person would be disrespectful to his own mother, and the roles would change. As some of them, they said that that child would be, in one sense, they said Sayyid. Sayyid means up over her. Like we said, that child, and he takes over his grandmother's check, he takes her car, he cusses her, he, treats her like he's the, grandfather and she's the granddaughter. Like this, Sayyid in that regard, being up over her. Another said Ba'la. Ba'la, as if he is her husband. Now, up over her. Ba'la, a Zoja. So these are some of the meanings that they gave for the last scenario, and that is when the child disrespects the parent, thus it's as if he is the parent of the parent who gave birth to him. So you have three explanations from the scholars about that part, and those are from the explanations that they gave about until the da'amata rabbaha, when the lady becomes up under the one that she gave birth to, he's over her. Those are the three scenarios. The first one we said again, because of conquest and people apostated from the religion, when they go to that land, then those people are conquered. So the lady becomes up under him, although she gave birth to him, because she did not make the migration, and thus she left Islam, and so forth. And then because of the ignorance, secondly, that people have, not knowing the rulings in Islam, what's halal, what's haram, then they make their own mother the right hand possessed all the way through with all of the meanings, because of the ignorance of knowing what's haram, what's halal. And then the last one, simply the child switches roles out of disrespect, as if he is the husband of that lady rather than the son of that lady, or as if he himself is her master and she is the servant. Now, Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Ri'a to Sha, Ri'a Sha, Ri'a Sha. Ri'a means one who's responsible, take the role of a caregiver for something. Ri'a. As Rasul kulukum ra'in, ra'a, ri'a, nafsu shay, to be responsible. Kulukum ra'in, wa kulukum mas'ulan an ra'iyatihi. All of you have something you're responsible over. Allah has given the man responsibility over his wife. Allah has given the parent responsibility over the children. Allah has given the wife responsibility over the house and the children in the absence of her husband. The imam is responsible for the people in his village, in his city, or as in our case, the group that comes together, yani under a umbrella to be a functional social Muslim community. And we said Jama'ah community means yani those alladina yajtami'u ijtima'an ala kitabillah wa ala sunnati rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that meaning of a community from the word Jama'ah means people that gather together, they assemble to practice and to exemplify and to demonstrate and to be people that live and deal according to the Quran and the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So the word Ri'a, one who's a caretaker, Sha' means yani sheep. Sometimes they say it yutlaq ala ghanam, it also means goats as well. Sha'a, sheep. Ghanam, goats. The ulama, they say the reason that the Prophet sallam Allah qassa ra'a sha', he particularly said those who are caretakers of sheep dun al-ibn, rather than saying those who are caretakers over camel. It said because the sheep herder huwa yani Allah ad'af min al-badi, min ahl al-badi, wa ad'af min ahl al-badi, he is from the weakest of the people of the desert. So you have different social classes even in the desert. The one who's the lowest, the sheep herder. As for the camel herder, the one who owns camels and herds camels, then they say that camel herder huwa yani laysa min ad-du'afa wala fuqara bal ماذا صاحب أو رعاء الإبل هو بارك الله فيكم هو غني وليس ب يعني من الضعفاء. So the sheep herder, not only is he low in status and he's poor, but he's the opposite of the camel herder, which is they are not weak in status and power and wealth, and likewise they're not poor, they're affluent. So the Prophet ﷺ could have mentioned any type of herd, but he mentioned the sheep herder because unlike the camel herder, the sheep herder is not only weak in status and weak in the land, but he normally is poor, as opposed to the camel herders that have strength, status, and they are rich. And so the Prophet ﷺ was talking about these people being barefooted and destitute. Find them barefooted with no shoes, and destitute meaning poor. But then the roles would be switched as part of the signs of the hour. وَيَتَطَوَّلُونَ فِي الْبُيَانَ, يَتَطَوَّلُونَ from tawal or tuwil, something tall, or something that has height to it. يَتَطَوَّلُونَ, the ya and the ta here, musnad ila tawwal, means someone is doing the construction of something that's tall. Someone is doing the act of making something tall. So the Prophet said, يَتَطَوَّلُونَ, they are the ones making something tall. Those people that were poor and used to be barefooted, they were destitute, without any type of shoes. Now they are يَتَطَوَّلُونَ. How are they making something tall? What are they making tall? By building. And what are they building? Buyana, tall story buildings. And this is the people in the UAE. This is the people in the Mamlakat al-Arabiyyah Saudiya. This is the people in the Khalij, the people in the Gulf in general. They used to be at one time this description. Now they are the other description. Wallah musta'an. So this the Prophet mentioned, and from amongst them, he mentioned those people that were sheep herders, those that were weak and poor, from the Ahlul Badi, the people of the desert. The ulama go on to mention, Barakallahu fikum, the statement, هذا جبريل جاء يعلمكم دينكم. Now, when he said this is Jibril, or that was Jibril who came to teach you your deen. وفي لفظ هذا جبريل فإنه جبريل. نعم فإنه جبريل. Thus, indeed, it was Jibril. جاء يعلمكم دينكم. He came to teach you your deen. This, they said, deen means يعني قواعد الدين. نعم قواعد الدين, the foundations of the religion. Others say the meaning from the scholars, others have said this means kuliyat din, all of the things about the deen. So if you take either meaning, take the first one, qawaid ad-din, the things that are foundations in the religion, such as iman, barakallahu fikum, such as barakallahu fikum, the issue of as-salah, was-sawm, they are pillars in the religion. As the next hadith is the hadith about Bunya Islam al-Khams. Islam has 5 things that is built upon. Shahadas first, and then the Prophet followed by saying salat and fasting. So this is an example of qa'idat ad-din. Qa'idat ad-din, ay aslu ad-din, arkan ad-din. Aslu ad-din, something that the deen is based upon. Arkan ad-din, something that relies on something else to be strong. Qawad ad-din, same thing, something that something else is built upon. As they said, al-asl huwa yubana shay ala shay, or yubana shay ala ghayri. Something that is based or rests or constructed upon something else. It needs support. So this is the meaning of when the Prophet said that Jibril came, hada Jibril ya'alimukum, ja ya'alimukum dinakum. Jibril, he came to teach you your deen. Deen here means qawaid ad-din, the foundations of the deen. Or, as the scholars say, kuliyah to deen. Kuliyah means everything that's related to deen. Jibril has that knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That which Allah gave him to give to the people shows you that you cannot move in this religion concerning it without evidence. You cannot move in this religion concerning this religion without evidence. Now, so inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala, that was the conclusion of the hadith of Jibril. Now we'll take some masail, some beneficial points from the hadith itself. The first thing we should remember that this hadith, the scholars that say, huwa dalilun ala ithbat qadrullah tabarak wa ta'ala. It is a proof of the affirmation of the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As again, we talked about the Khawarij, and we talked about the Jahmiyyah, and we talked about Allah Musta'an, the Mu'taziliyah, and all of these groups, the Asha'ir, and the Maturidiyah, the Maturidiyah, the people from the different sects of the Asha'ir and the Sufiyah. They all share in common something that has to do with partial or total negation of the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from amongst his actions is that he decreed stuff. and that he needs knowledge to decree. So thus he has full knowledge and he decreed everything. But this hadith is a proof against him. This hadith of Jibril is a proof against those who deny that Allah has power over all things and that he himself has the knowledge. As the Prophet ﷺ was told to talk about this issue to the believers, to make it clear to them, as Jibril told him, and tu'minu na kadalik bil qadr, and the Prophet ﷺ said also to Jibril this, and the Prophet has mentioned that we have to believe in this qadr, just as Jibril taught him to believe in this divine decree, which is inclusive of knowledge that Allah He has before something takes place, once it takes place, and that which is in the future. That's the first point that we can take from this hadith. Another point, barakallahu fikum, is that la ya'lamu al-ghayb illa Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. That no one knows the issues of the unseen except Allah. And this is also talking about the day of judgment. No one knows when. We know that it will be on a Jumu'ah, as the Prophet has mentioned that. But which Jumu'ah, we don't know. That knowledge is with Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. And what time on Jumu'ah? Is it after sunrise? Allahumma musta'an. Is it before dhuhr? Is it bayna dhuhr wal asr? We don't know what time and all of the details. All of that is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the time, it will come suddenly without any warning. Wallahu musta'an. And suddenly without any warning doesn't mean that the major signs won't come. Those will come. But the actual down to the moment when the trumpet is going to be blown, we don't know the exact physical time or space in which that's going to occur. Only Allah, He knows that. That's the second point that we take from this hadith. The second we take, barakallahu fikum, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal has created us in our actions. As Allah said, Wallahu khalaqakum wa ma ta'amalun. Allah has created you and your actions. Now, that's the third point we take from this hadith. The fourth point we take from this hadith, barakallahu fikum, that iman yazid wa yanqus. Iman, it increases and decreases. And not like those who say iman, iman al-abd kal iman al-Jibril. That the iman of a person is like the iman of Jibril. It doesn't move. It's on one level. And we have many ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this clearly. One of them is He said, لِيَسْدَادُوا إِيمَانِهِمْ مَا لِيَسْدَادُوا إِيمَانًا مَا إِيمَانِهِمْ. And this action has been revealed for them to increase in the iman that they already have. So this is a fact that iman increases, because Allah wouldn't have said that this is to be done in order to increase them in that which they already have of iman. Now, and if something can be increased, as Imam Bukhari said, then this is the biggest proof that it can be decreased. Now, adding and subtracting. Also, that's the fourth point from this hadith, the iman increases and decreases. Also, barakallahu fikum, the issue, yusamma a'mal dhahira imanan, that you can call actions that you see iman. Actions that you see can take the title iman. This is another proof from this, the fifth point from this barakallahu fikum hadith. As Rasulullah, when he was asked about Islam, he mentioned that you make the shahada, that you make the salah, that you pay the zakat. And when he was asked about iman, he said, "Tu'min billahi," that you believe in Allah. And we know this belief is not just in your heart, but it's with your tongue, and the Prophet also mentioned with the body parts. In the hadith where he said, "A'laha qawlun la ilaha illallah," the highest level of iman is that you say la ilaha illallah. So this shows you that iman is also mentioned as a person's outward deeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ يُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ, and Allah will not cause your iman to be lost. Ibn Kathir said iman here means salatukum, your salat. So Allah Azza wa Jal named salat iman. Now, this is the sixth issue from this hadith we benefit. Number 7, barakallahu fikum, al-iman laysa iman mutlaq, bal huwa mutlaq al-iman. Iman is not complete and does not become effective. Rather,
Notifications.
the Iman
Renew.
has to be perfected. So you have two terms. Iman mutlaq. Iman mutlaq. If Iman comes first and mutlaq comes second, this means the Iman is complete. You can do what you want because you have total Iman, and this is falsehood. But if mutlaq comes first and Iman comes last, then this means the Iman has to be completed, it has to be made whole because it has deficiencies. So our Iman is the Iman that is not whole, rather is the Iman that has levels, and it must be strengthened. And this we find in the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said, La yusni zani. Yes. I have the mic on. I don't know what's back there. Got to cut your mic on or something that's on this side. I'm in the Dutch live on the internet. Barakallahu feek. Yes, inshallah. So the Salam, he said in the Hadith, La yasni zani, hina yasni wa huwa mu'min. So this, the scholars, they used to show that Iman is not complete because the Prophet said, La yasni zani. La yasni mean a person does not make illegal intercourse. La yasni zani. And zani is the person's name who's doing it. So la yasni, the one does not do this action. Zani, the name of the person who would do the action. Hina yasni, while he's doing the action, wahuwa mu'min. So this means, in layman terms, if a person's doing fornication, may Allah protect us from fornication, Ameen. Or adultery, may Allah protect us from adultery, Ameen. Then he's not a believer at that time. Although he's a believer, meaning he did not leave Islam, but his Iman is lessened to the degree that the Prophet said is suspended over his head. It's suspended over his head, meaning that his Iman is not the same as it was when the person was not making illegal intercourse, fornication, and adultery. So the Prophet said, La yasni zani, hina yasni wa huwa mu'min. That person will not be a person of illegal intercourse and do it while he really has a strong or an Iman that is complete. So this shows that Iman, as the ulama have mentioned, Iman barakallahu fiik mutlaq means a person's Iman is whole, and this is wrong. Nobody's Iman is whole from the human beings, that's the angels. But if you say mutlaq Iman, then this means the Iman has to be worked on, that it's up and down, and sometimes it's strong, and sometimes it's weak, and you have to do a lot to make the Iman complete, and you will never be able to have complete Iman except that you are an angel. That means that Iman increases and decreases. The Prophet said, La yasriq sabiqu hina asraq hina asraq wa huwa mu'min. Hina asraq wa huwa mu'min. And likewise, a person would not steal except that his Iman will be taken from him. And again, this does not mean totally that his Iman is taken, that he's a kafir. Just like when you sleep, your soul is taken, but your soul is not taken totally. You're still alive, but it is taken enough to make you deficient, to make you not coherent, to make you, as we say, the sister of death, sleeping. But no one understands when you sleep, that's it, you're never coming back, except the whole soul is taken. So this statement of the Prophet, the person, when he makes illegal intercourse, or when he steals, at that time, he's not a mu'min. This means his Iman is very little. His Iman is very little, and some have said that his Iman has been taken and suspended over his head until he makes tawbah, until he leaves that deed, meaning that his Iman is depleted or that it is lessened. And this is one of the proofs the ulama use to show that the Iman increases and decreases. Now, the last point I want to make, barakallahu fikum, about this hadith of Jibreel, wa nasallallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala, yuzidna iman, may Allah increase his iman, wal ilm, and knowledge, wa amal, and action. This is one of the greatest hadith One of the greatest hadith that Imam an-Nawawi collected in his 40 hadith, and one of the greatest hadith that you find in the likes of Sahih Muslim and others, because it comprises all of these things in a general way that's considered from the foundations of Islam, the pillars of Islam, that which all of the Muslims have to know from these affairs in this hadith. No one can be without them, except his deen either will be lifted from him or his deen will be suspect. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in knowledge, to increase us in all that is good, and to bless us to be from amongst those who listen and we follow the best that we comprehend from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Sallallahu wa sallam baraka wa sallam kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala about 2:30 we will come back live to do the third hadith of the 40 hadith, which is the hadith of Ibn Umar, Bunyad Islam al-Khamsa. Islam is based upon 5. Inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Any questions? You got a question, sister? It was hot, boy. We need an AC or something. I feel like I'm in the desert. Sister had the question, Sister Basim. Anybody have a question online? Abdullah, any questions from the people online? Barakallahu Fiki. I'll wait a minute to see if there's any questions. Abdullah, any questions from the people on the line? Barakallahu Fiki. Talking to my staff who's listening in the other end of the
I didn't see any shit.
Barakallahu Fikum. طيب إن شاء الله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.
Finish. Button. Finish. Button. Finish. Button.
No.
Finish. Button.
Let me take the voice over.
Finish.
Okay.
Button.
No, left. Not yet.
Yeah, this is audio. This is not video.
Voice over off.
Now see.